Warriors lost to the Raptors 104-101 last night to fall under 500 for the first time this season. Since a 12-3 start, Golden State has lost 17 of 24 games and have dropped all the way to 12th and out of the play-in tournament in the Western Conference. With the trade deadline just 3 weeks away, Steph Curry warned against making desperate moves.
Desperate trades or desperate, moves that deplete the future. Like, there is a responsibility on allowing, keeping the franchise in a good space and good spot when it comes to where we leave this thing when we're done. You want to continue to get better. Nobody wants to be stale or be in a situation where you're passing up opportunities, but it doesn't mean that you're desperate, just flinging assets all around the place just because you want to do something.
He's preaching. I'm with that, Brian Windhorst. Never make moves, never make decisions from a desperate, desolate place. Windy, great to have you with us here. Obviously, the trade deadline is less than a month away. Do you agree with what Steph said?
I got to tell you, Molly, this was one of the more interesting interviews of this entire NBA season. And I know it happened on a cold night in Toronto after a game that the Warriors lost to a bad team. But it was really, really relevant. What Steph Curry is basically saying there is the Warriors shouldn't go all in. Just because I'm turning 37 in March, just because we started 12-3, we shouldn't take our young players and our first-round draft picks and go get a star player now. That's what the Warriors basically were trying to do all last summer and fall. And in theory, we're still trying to do during this season. He was basically saying, I'm not quitting, but if the front office wants to punt, I get it. He even went so far as to say, and I don't think I've ever heard this from a star player, we got to worry about where the franchise is after we're gone. This is like the anti-LeBron. LeBron is the guy who's trade all the draft picks 7 years into the future. I don't care about 2031. It was I would almost, I don't know what Steph's conversations have been with the front office, but I would guess that this sentiment has been explained to the front office. And I'm going to go out there and make some calls today and try to get a feel of where the Warriors are. I'm now wondering if the Warriors make a trade, that it's not to dump money off of their roster and get out of the luxury tax, because their franchise players saying, don't be desperate. So this is, it's not a stunner because they've been poor. They're under 500. Buddy Hield was awesome the first 15 games. He played like a prime Klay Thompson. He's been, not that over the last, 2 months. So they've been losing amongst other reasons. But that was a phenomenally interesting statement that Steph Curry made last night.
I agree with you. I don't think I've ever heard a star player or superstar player say that. That's a far cry from LeBron. Kobe, hey, trade whatever you got to trade. I want somebody that can help me compete. I'm not worried about the franchise. The franchise might not win another championship after I'm gone, but that ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm trying to win championships while I'm here. And we know Mike, even though Jerry Krause didn't adhere to it, he wanted, I'm trying to win. And whatever it's going to take to win, he didn't care if the players, what type of reputation they had. Look, go get me Dennis Rodman. I'll work with him. I'll keep him under control because I'm trying to win. If I'm listening and hearing what I'm hearing, Steph is like, hey, bro, let's just punt this thing. Hey, we ain't got it today. We ain't going to pick up no first down. Let's just, run into the line of scrimmage, punt it, and we're going to live to see another day, and we try to do better next year. But I'm surprised that he said that, considering how competitive, because, Stephen A., you hear everybody says, even though you look at the pretty smile and you look at it, he doesn't look as cutthroat as like Michael Jordan and Kobe. He's equally as assassin inside, and when you get around him behind closed doors. But to hear him say that, he's concerned about the franchise in the future when he potentially won't be there is very, very surprising.
Well, that's why Joe Lacob loves him so much. That's number one. It's one of the reasons anyway. Number two, let's make sure we crystallize things for a second here. You brought up Dennis Rodman. That was the only acquisition per se the Chicago Bulls really had in the Jordan era. Outside of that, it was dudes that came up that Jordan nurtured in the championship level. See, that's what GOAT status really entails. But I digress. Let me get to
No, he wanted players. Jerry Krause just wouldn't go get players. Go ahead and tell the truth, Stephen A. You want to see? Hey, Wendy, you see what he tried to do? He tried to do that. You see what he tried to do? Because he wanted all them Tar Heel players.
They you know, he got him Tony Kukoc from Europe. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about Europe, the draft, stuff like that, as opposed to a free agent coming over to you. That's all I'm saying. But I was only playing around. Here's the deal, y'all. I was surprised at what Steph Curry said, and I got to admit to you, Wendy, Shay, I don't know how to feel about it. Because on one hand, I really, really appreciate the selflessness on Steph Curry's part. But in the same breath, I'm saying he is still great. He is still the greatest shooter God ever created. He is still made of that championship armor. And if I'm the Golden State Warriors, do I say, let me build incrementally and gradually and go along and what have you? Or do I really go for it while I still have Steph Curry playing damn near like he's in his prime? The Golden State Warriors are in 12th place in the Western Conference with a game under 500. Since November 23rd, they are 7-17. That is the 5th worst record in the entire NBA. So I'm looking at it, excuse me, and I'm saying, do I really need to be going through this when I got a superstar still playing like a superstar? I mean, I appreciate what he's saying. But if I'm Golden State, I'm like, and let me tell you something. There's rumors about them potentially pursuing Vucevic out of Chicago. Listen, I don't rule. He would be an upgrade. He would be an upgrade. He would help them. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, he can score a rebound.
Then you're wasting away. So even though I appreciate what he said, it's hard to believe that he believes that. And if he does believe it, God bless him, but I don't give a damn. If I'm Joe Lacob, I'm like, what's the chances, guys? What's the chances at any time in the remainder of my lifetime as owner of the Golden State Warriors, if I'm Joe Lacob and Peter Cooper and those guys, that I'm going to find me another Steph Curry? What's the chances of me pulling that off? Yeah. I got to capitalize and max this out.
Yeah. Wendy, take us home.
A player like Steph Curry is an unreplaceable resource. There is no more of them.
Once in a lifetime.
He signed an extension last summer. He signed a 2-year extension last summer. They signed Steve Kerr to an extension. They tried to trade for all these guys. It looked like they were all on the same page. And right now, Steph is saying, you're off the hook. And I don't know. Like, I got to do my work on this and feel like if that's what they're telling other teams, I got to hear more from Steph that if this wasn't just a bad moment and a bad night. But this sounded like something he'd thought about. And it may be a responsible thing. It's just something we don't normally hear.
But Wendy, I'm saying to you, I don't care what he says if I'm the owner. I got him. I got to maximize him.
Well, on the other hand,
I appreciate what he said. I'm thankful, but I got him.
Go ahead, Wendy.
On the other hand, what if they had gotten Paul George? Paul George is having a terrible year. Now, I don't know if it would have been the same if he was in Golden State. But on the other hand, like, what if they had gotten Paul George and they had given up those assets for him and this was happening? So I think there's two sides to it.
Right.
I think Steph is trying to be realistic.
You're right. Absolutely.
I'm on fire. It's NBA, it's